Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Pretty Girls Mahjong Solitaire. So we're on round 3 of stage 2 and same old music is playing. Man, I don't think I've ever had a song get on my nerves as quickly as this song. It's just so upbeat, and I have the audio turned down pretty low. In fact, possibly way too low, and it's still not working for me. Seems like we're gonna be switching her into a swimsuit, like a school swimsuit style versus a beach swimsuit. Suppose it is fair to say Japan is an island with lots of beaches, and their society takes advantage of that more than you would probably think, for as reserved as they usually are in other matters. But yes, it's that Japanese are practically modern day Vikings, for as much as their life revolves around fishing and eating fish and being near the seas and shores. But I wouldn't say the vast majority of them end up going on ships, and they're not quite like Vikings because they don't run around pirating ships or attacking other lands. But yes, the sea means a lot to them because it's all around them. Kind of like the snow means a lot to an Eskimo because it's all around them. You get used to things. I don't know if I'm making any sense at this point, or if I'm making a point. I've kind of run out of points to talk about. Honestly, this game wasn't supposed to be this long. We were gonna just play a few matching. I figured I'd play maybe 5 games at different layouts. In all honesty, a series like this, if it weren't for the different girls and the different stages and everything, I could have covered all of this in less than an hour. Because we would have just needed to know the basics. The game has different layouts for Mahjong tiles. You play Mahjong Solitaire by matching the tiles, and that's kind of all you need to know. And then it would have easily just been off you go from that point. But all this extra stuff is making this go longer than I wanted it to. For such a simplistic game, there's no reason for dragging it out. Familiarity, if I can pronounce that word right, breeds contempt, is a saying, and I think that's exactly how I would classify what's happening here. We are becoming more familiar with this game, more familiar with the song that is awful, and it's just breeding contempt. It's just like, I don't like it. I just don't like it. In all honesty, if I had bought this game, I may very well have gotten that refund on this game, because you can do that automatically with Steam if you play less than 2 hours. You could probably play half this game in less than 2 hours and get a refund and find a different one. Different Mahjong Solitaire game. Look at all these matches just sitting here. Where is this piece? right there. So that's the only one that mattered. Now, let's get rid of this. Get rid of this. That one, that one. Can't get rid of that. Can get rid of this. If I choose this with this. Let's see, this one with that one. I'm having a hard time seeing which ones are on top. Like, there's a tile under this, but I didn't see it. And there's a tile here. And to match it, I would have to match this with this. I think that's the right move. This with this, this with this, this with this. All to get to this point to do that. To do that. And then I think that solved this puzzle. So it puts her in kind of more of a professional swimming outfit. Now, ironically, I was just watching somebody make commentary on these anime girls and their style of animation, and how on a lot of ways, what's the difference between drawing somebody naked and then drawing them with clothes that are impossibly tailored to the point where shirts just cinch right back up and hang to every curve, and they're showing every line of the body. I mean, the only thing that says she isn't naked right now is the different coloring and the cuffs and bows and things. Otherwise, the clothes are so tight, they basically are the same. And how that effectively was a fan service that often doesn't get seen or criticized as being fan service, whereas if you just in a natural occasion showed somebody naked, that would always be decried as fan service, even if it isn't really the intent. And it's probably a pedantic argument to have there, but in this game's case, it's kind of the same issue. They've made a game here that specifically says it's not going to have any nudity and doesn't have any nudity. And instead, they've just had a bunch of girls that are in really tight clothing and bikinis and things. They're trying to push the line as close as possible without crossing over into actual nudity. And trying to follow the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law, as it might be said in a court case, or the intent. And in a lot of ways, that's just as bad. We have heard, because they're speaking in Japanese, we've heard no story. And there is no story, there's no background. They don't bother to give us any bios on any of the girls to tell us anything about them. So you can't make a legitimate argument that these girls aren't here just as objects. They're just being used as objects of desire. That's the reason they're there, obviously. And they didn't even bother to put an argument in the game that it could be anything different. Where if you compare it to something like the main character from Bayonetta, major story there occurs throughout the game, and while she is drawn and does act in a sexually provocative way, she's not just there to be the object of desire. She's also there to be the main character of the story, and that's exactly what she does. Let's go ahead and look here at all the matches I've missed. And there's a slight difference there. And then, of course, you go the other way, like Metal Gear Solid 5, where you have a character like Quiet, who is a major character, but then they put her in a bikini for no real reason other than the creator wanted to put her in a bikini, and instead of saying he just wanted her in a bikini, he comes up with a ridiculous half explanation that makes no sense, that she breathes through her skin, therefore she can't wear a normal amount of clothing, which is just ridiculous argument. I mean, it's not even a well thought out idea, it's just made up excuse. It's not like there's been a whole series of characters in the game that breathe through their skin. You could almost get away with that argument better if you were making some kind of RPG game and you created this whole species that breathed through their skin and was plant-like, a part plant. Like Mass Effect, I believe, had a series that was a plant-like characters, but they won't. Even they, I don't think, were walking around in bikinis. And then, of course, Quiet doesn't talk throughout the whole game either, so the character, through her own statements, doesn't explain the situation either, which that would have been fine too, since Quiet is this kind of badass sniper. She could have said, "I just like being in a bikini," and that could have been the end of it. And that's at least a more realistic answer than she breathes through her skin. Man. So let's see if we can do this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And I think now we've won. Wait a minute. We haven't won. Because there's got to be 2 pieces under this. It's a good thing I didn't make this match, otherwise I would have lost. Oh, there was one over here. Never mind. I didn't see this other piece. Those blank tiles, they could blend into the background if you're not careful. So how difficult is a Mahjong Solitaire layout like this, where you have 3 tiles on top of everything? Is that really difficult, or is that relatively easy? I'd say it's probably somewhat difficult. It's in stage 3, and I'm not sure if this is supposed to spell something in Japanese, or look somewhat like something in Japanese, but it doesn't look like anything in English for sure. See, and I kind of want to use this already, but I'm fairly certain there's a ton of matches I just haven't seen yet. I'm just having trouble locking in on them. again, having that issue where I can't see the trees for the forest. I see the big picture here, I see all these tiles, but the specific details, which piece is where and which matches where, that's not easy for my eyes to see. Of course I can do it, it's just a muscle I haven't exercised enough of. Let's keep this going. Can't do that match. How about that? Then that. That with that, that with that. This is a different song, but it's repeating too, and I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of it. It's not as bad as the other one. The part of the problem here is the music creator just didn't write a song that was long enough. For a game like this, it needed to be 10-20 minute long piece, at least 5 or 8 minutes. This seems like it barely goes 2.5 minutes before it goes into a loop. Lazy songwriting with lazy video game creating, and just lazy on top of lazy on top of lazy doesn't make a quality product. And it's not like the standards are even that high for a Mahjong Solitaire game. All you have to do is put in a decent amount of effort with a relatively small budget and you can get it done better than this. I feel like, although I don't know for certain. There may be some horror story behind this game. It's like that the budget was slashed and they had only a week to get it done. They just churn out games like this. Pretty much the same company has released 3 games based around Mahjong and Pretty Girls. So churning it out is not an invalid way to describe it. And see, that happens a little too much on Steam too, is that there's games that are slightly different from other games, and since there's no curation going on, it kind of floods the market, which Steam is getting more and more full every day. It needs some curation. It needs some improvements on a lot of versions of games too. A lot of games are very old and won't run properly on modern PCs. A lot of them are bad PC ports in the first place, and they never ran properly on PCs. That's where I think the refund policy is eventually going to push Steam and Valve, the owners of Steam, to go, is that they're going to start seeing some games are just always getting customer service complaints, or always getting refunds, or just always causing trouble because they don't run properly. That Valve is eventually just going to step in and say, look, this game is costing us more money than it's worth, therefore we're taking it off our library, or we're going to hide it from most people, and instead we're going to find something better and offer that to the people. And we haven't gotten anywhere close to that yet. Steam doesn't really do a good job about recommending games to people that they might actually want to play. In kind of an ironic way, they recommend games to you that you've already played, in the sense that if you've played a first-person shooter for thousands of hours, if you're all into Call of Duty, they're going to recommend other first-person shooters to you, which maybe that's the right thing to do, but kinda it's not, because you've already spent 1,000 hours on that. Maybe it's time for you to learn some other style of game and try something different. And the try something different idea is the difficult one to get around. And implement. And I imagine of 10 potentially recommended games, one of them should be something completely different. Like, and they should highlight it in that fashion and say, you've played these games, these style of games before, so we're going to assume that you want to play more of these. But here on suggestion number 10, we're going to say, how about something completely different? How about playing a visual novel, since you've done nothing but first-person shooters? And here's the best visual novel to start down that path. Or that would be quite an extreme jump, but that's something in the video game industry we kind of desperately need to happen too. We've got to diversify the audience and not just have a majority or a growing majority of players only buy one game a year, and usually only for console and nothing else, and play it all year, because that doesn't give a stable amount of income year round, nor is it efficient for the people that buy a $500 console potentially, and to buy 4, maybe 6 games in total of the life of that console. Plus, there are a lot of great games out there that they're missing out on. It's where the idea of a library comes from. Before libraries existed, you had to basically borrow books from people you knew, and the number of books in a city in total would be crazy small. But once the libraries started establishing themselves, then you could rent out a book or borrow a book from a library that had thousands and thousands of them. The general knowledge of the people had the at least opportunity to increase, and I think it did increase. And the libraries started to eventually trade with each other and help each other out. So one city's library might send half of its collection over to another city so that they rotated out the stocks. Although half of the collection is probably a large amount. And in the same way, we've got a huge library of Steam games now. We just got to get people to come into that library and play some of these games, which is partially the reason why I do this YouTube channel and criticize games that aren't just the biggest, most popular games everywhere. Sure, I can tell people to go play The Witcher 3, it's a great game. And pretty much anybody that hears me say that has already heard someone else say that. So, it is a great game, go play it, but I would like to also highlight some of the other games that are lesser known and play as some of the older games. And I also want to highlight the mistakes that get made in games, and this is one of those sad coverages of a game where it's hard for me to see anybody really liking this. It's kind of not even good for a laugh, as the phrase goes. It's just too simplistic, and it's just too short, and it's just matching tiles with too few layouts and no score system and no timer system and a bad interface. Everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong is practically the truth. Certainly the game hasn't crashed yet. The game that would be totally unacceptable if the game crashed for as simplistic as it is. But just doesn't deliver on the core features you would like to see in a solitaire game of any kind, whether it's a solitaire with a deck of cards or mahjong tiles or some other set of pieces. The layouts aren't presenting incredibly difficult layouts, but with the timed mode, it'd probably never be able to beat them all, or not in a reasonable amount of time. I don't feel like I've spent a reasonable amount of time on this game already. It feels like I've wasted extra hours that I didn't really have time for and really didn't need to spend. So we've got all these face down ones, so it's time to shuffle. Well, they're not face down, they're on the bottom floor as it is. Let's see, that, that, that. This dragon and this dragon tells me I'm not gonna make it all the way. So we'll have to shuffle again. These aren't the same pieces. This is 3 and this is 2. They look pretty similar. 1, 2, 3. Ichi ni san. Ichi ni san is the right way to pronounce it. So there's got to be a match somewhere. I probably should do this, and this piece and this piece and this piece and this piece are stuck. So making any more matches at this point is pointless. And so we'll shuffle again. And here we are putting her in a different school swimsuit style. This is kind of more of a school style, where the previous one was more of a professional style swimsuit for speed swimming. So we can kind of imply, although nothing is actually being said, to this fact that she's into swimming with the background of the swimming pool. But they're just kind of covering some very broad, very general stereotypes here. And we've unlocked girl number 5. And this is girl number 5. And we'll look at her later. And so Arena starts off in a skin-tight, form-fitting, but otherwise acceptable dress, and then she goes to a full-on business suit match, and then she goes here and to a speed thing. Hey, she has toes. Interesting. So some of them have toes animated, some of them don't. Let's see if we can. It says I sound, whatever. It's probably a spoof name of something I don't recognize. She's in the same outfit with the same hairstyle. Normally in a game like this you would have multiple hairstyles and switch that up, and you'd have different body poses, and you're not seeing any of that. Every single pose here, the body is in the exact same place because they just drew the clothing over it. So definitely some lazy animation in general going on here to do single stills, really. And anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. I hope that helps out. If you want to support me further, click on my name, Rydo. On the right is a button that says support this channel. Click it, make a donation. And if you want a friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.